Good day. Thank you for joining us in our first series of What's in Your Cup. And it's such a wonderful thing because we're starting with someone who's very close to Trend. He's been one of our loyal partner, Johnny Han, on my other side of the virtual console. Johnny, good morning.
Good morning, and I do have my cup here. So
Oh,
there you
you
go.
you just reminded me. I have mine. As I said earlier, it's not color coded. Let's talk a little bit about your cup. What's the significance? I'm curious.
Yeah, so I was former military. I was in the Navy for 13 years, served from like 99 to 2013, and I actually received this cup as part of an organization while I was stationed in Japan with a F-18 squadron. So it was very cool. A little over 20 years ago, and I have two of them, but I keep one here with me.
Oh, that's really interesting. Cups with, I mean, they come with a lot of story indeed. There's two things I always say in the morning, the first two things you have to start in your day is one is ikigai, which is a Spanish discipline of just to try to understand what's your passion in life and be reminded of it. And the next one is a cup of coffee, right? So that's the reason that we're having this today. I'm just curious, Johnny, do you have a favorite beans or roast from any country? You've traveled a lot in your previous work, of course.
Yeah, I'm a pretty simple. I like kind of a basic medium roast coffee.
Ah,
I do it black and not a lot of stuff in it. Just basic coffee.
yeah, yeah. It speaks a lot of what my style is also. It's really just very plain and simple, but I normally like the Colombian, South American kind of coffee style. So would be lovely to be able to visit that place soon. But anyway, thank you for joining us today, Johnny. Maybe just for our Innovis Club members, can you talk a little bit about your background specific? I know your background for sure, but it would be lovely for them to see and hear what you've been focusing on. What's in your cup?
Yeah, so just a little career background. Like I said, I was active duty Navy. I worked in communications kind of across a broad spectrum of IT operations, everything from networking to running Linux systems and those things. I transitioned a little bit later in my career into cybersecurity and started working for the Navy Cyber Defense Operations Command, specifically focused around cyber defense operations, and moved into that field. Really found my passion there. Really love just the kind of detection and response capabilities. I transitioned in 2013, moved down to where I grew up in Savannah, Georgia, in
Mm.
2014, and then started here at the Savannah College of Art and Design. So we've been able since 2014 to now to build out a very capable but very small team here at the university. So it's interesting to be a part of a design institution that is still very much focused on information security and cybersecurity. So we've taken those postures of being very capable cyber defenders and bringing that into an organization like this and really tailor fitting our technology.
And that's an interesting shift. When I think about it, it's really coming in from obviously defense perspective in every sense of the word, moving into incident response, and now you're in the, I would not say soft side, but academia is a very, very different industry, right? So have you, and I think the common denominator I see is incident response, whether it's on the ground, right? Protecting a bigger population, or in this case, really is the academe world, right? What's driving you to stay on that core of incident response, whether in IT or tech or on the ground?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest thing we look at across the threat landscape right now is we try to identify where our risk exposure is, and that's really kind of the main theme of what we're doing right now and how we've really postured the technology that we use. For us, we are an art and design university. However, we have a very large international student population. We have a large population that comes out of mainland China, a lot from South America, a lot from Eastern Europe. So it makes for a really interesting demographic in terms of the types of connections and kind of normal things that would happen. For a lot of organizations, if you saw SSH inbound and some of these different tools coming in from China, you'd probably just want to block it. But for us, we have legitimate services that we're providing out to mainland China and some of these other countries that have a high prevalence of attack vectors. So for us, we have to stay on the emerging threats. And then we have to take an honest look at where we're at and the information that we're protecting. So we really take that approach of risk exposure, where's our soft spots, where do we expect our things to come from, and then more importantly, in our partnership with Trend, has been about really tailor fitting the products that we have and the technology stack we have, so that we can be the most capable, the most responsive, but not have to really grow a big complement of staff.
I'd like to pivot a little bit to what you've mentioned. In large organizations, whether large or small, there is what we call compliance, standards, framework that helps a lot of organization, we must admit. You've mentioned two key things that I'd like to dive in. One is tailor fit. And of course, you said that you really look at your landscape first rather than defending or looking at probably what's in the book. Can you slightly, it's not controversial, but it's something I do not hear often, but maybe let's dive in a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's a little controversial because when we talk about the frameworks, I think most organizations, especially if they're going to start a program, they're going to go to the framework and then they're going to really just try to, and I don't want to sound bad saying this, but a lot of organizations will check the boxes. They'll say, hey, we need endpoint detection and response or XDR. Great, let me go find a top vendor, and they'll check the box. And they'll do the same thing with some of their incident response capabilities, or they'll outsource those capabilities. For me, I use the frameworks. We, fortunately for us, don't have to align to a specific framework. So I call it kind of cherry picking the best of the frameworks, whether it's the ISO series or the NIST framework. As we look through the MITRE ATT&CK framework, we take those as a complement to what we're doing and as kind of a guiding light, if you will, but we're not beholden to them, so that we can reach out and we can say, you know what, in order for us to be the most responsive, and what I mean by that is to be able to detect and respond and remediate within seconds and minutes, rather than investigative times that take a long time, like I see with a lot of organizations. The way that we do that is we focus on the risk and the technology stack, and really, honestly, fully implementing that into our capabilities so that our folks are using the tools. I've worked with a lot of organizations and even mentored in organizations where they go to framework first, which is a great place to start. They adopt a technology, but they fall short on the deployment and really the successful mapping of that technology to their capabilities. So they may have a extremely robust EDR and endpoint detection capability, but maybe they're not using it, and it's probably not fully deployed. So we really focus on our risk and focusing on that as a deployment mechanism.
Yeah, and I think it's very critical because, as you said, you've got a varied use. Obviously, in the academia, you have multiple vector points that criminals would love to enjoy and have that as their playground. So understanding that is very, very important. Let's pivot a little bit to, I'm just curious, my cousins are dominantly in the San Diego area where a lot of navies are. So I'm just curious, what are you bringing? What's the analogy of the things that you were bringing from your being a Navy for a couple of years in the past versus coming in right now to a very different industry? Is there some common denominators? What are the things that you're bringing in that freshen up probably what you're doing in the academia?
Yeah, I think one of the things I've seen as I've looked across the landscape with our colleagues and other academic institutions is there seems to be a pretty large alignment of, I'll just say, human capital, right? Like if I work with some other universities that are comparably sized, they have a lot of folks that are singularly focused, right? You'll have a position that maybe is writing programs and policies, and that's what they do. And there's folks that are doing the, security engineering aspect and the appliance application, those kind of things. For me personally, growing up in the Navy, it's kind of a joke, but it's one of those things where you do a lot with a little. And the benefit of that is you get exposed to a lot of different technologies. You have to stay very dynamic because you may be managing a lot of different systems and a lot of different types of technologies. For some people, they really enjoy that. And some of the other organizations, they really like that, kind of singular focus. I took that. I love operations. I love, doing stuff that's fresh and new. And honestly, I enjoy kind of pushing the envelope a little bit. So as we looked across our program, we knew as an art and design university, even though from an executive buy-in standpoint, our board and our president and our VPs are very sold out to information security. I mean, we had a program in 2012 when most of our academic peers did not. And so they're very focused, and they know the importance of investment. But rather than just checking the box of framework, we wanted to say, okay, can we do a lot with a little? And if we are going to do that, then we're going to really focus on training. We're going to take the technology stack that we have and we're going to make sure that we know it inside and out. So we exhaust all the resources. And then we're going to tailor fit that to our incident response so that we know if we're going to triage a phishing email, what the fastest and most responsive way to do that. And we may leverage different technologies within that technology stack. We don't just go, for the big three, if you will. So that's been a great thing with our Trend partnership. I'll just be honest, is the flexibility and the capability. So you have such an amazing portfolio of capabilities that a lot of people really haven't tapped into. But you're also working with us, usually on a weekly basis or a quarterly basis, to say, okay, hey, when we are mitigating these types of things, we need these types of alerts. We need this type of data enrichment that helps us move faster. And that's really always my goal is I want to detect and remediate as fast as possible. And really, I want to get into, the automation of that into seconds.
And I like what I'm hearing, of course, the flexibility and agility of your provider, obviously, to support. And let's talk a little bit. The last sentence you said is about speed, right? So when we put this analogy in the world of, obviously, cybersecurity, what do you see right now that speeds up a little bit that hopefully, if you have the power to pause it, what would that be?
Yeah, so the slowdown is always response to detection. I think that there's, whatever the portfolio is, there's really hundreds of very, very capable tools that can do detection and it can do alerting. Of course, alert fatigue is a very real thing when you have a small shop. So you have to really make sure that the information that you're receiving is the most valuable information so that you can take the fastest action on that. So the idea that you're alerting on everything. It sounds great, like comprehensive alerting, wide scale detection. All of those sound great. But if I can't digest it and respond to it quickly, then what happens is, we're going to be starting our day or responding to, in our case, a security operations center, who's been doing work all night. And we're trying to come in the morning and figure out, 1,500 tangible alerts that should be looked at. So for us, the ingest, especially with Vision One, has been amazing for us. We've used that in terms of leveraging your MDR team as well and the off hours and just getting that data enrichment and really funneling it down. But whether it's your tools or any other tools that we're using, that's like my first thing I talk about with the team. Okay, let's find out what we can learn, what we know, and then let's tune that down as small as possible to get the fastest response action. Really, the idea that, like I said, I'll use phishing because it's one of the most prevalent attacks. The idea that a phishing attack comes in and it may be widespread or very targeted and the detection happens, but there's not a response action within seconds is really not acceptable. So we're moving everything into either automated response actions or if there is a human element that we can easily navigate a tool and do remediation.
Yeah, and I think that's where the complementary part of solutions, the product and service, because you talked about MDR earlier, is to help you narrow down, right? From a zoom out perspective and zoom into what you think. You combine intelligence that you have that you think is matters a lot for you to take action for, right? And I think that's the beauty of it, right? So moving forward, the reason that we're also doing what's in your cup is to really understand not just what keeps you busy today, but what do you see also as, things that probably in your cup in the future? So in the near future, and I think in this industry, near future for us, things about 6 months to 1 year, right? Is not as long as that. What excites you and your team when you talk about security right now? Has it inched forward? What are the things that you're seeing today and taking trends probably in the future?
Yeah, and obviously there's a lot of buzz around AI and generative language models and those kind of things. So there's a very high interest in how we can, in a meaningful way, leverage those. So we're very keen to trends usage within the Vision One platform of AI. We're doing some workshops on that. So very excited about that opportunity. But that creates and opens up, as AI develops, it's creating more and more security challenges, right? So we look at it from two perspectives: is how can we use it to leverage to make our response times faster and really make us more informed, right? Without as much of the threat analysis that we would need to really dig into logs. we do have a small team, so that's a huge value point for us. On the other side of though is, and this is from a programs and policies perspective, is because we are an art and design school, there's an extremely high amount of excitement around AI, plugging AI into some of the bigger models, especially around design structures and those kind of things. So because the excitement is so high, that tends to mean there's a lot of people that may be circumventing, the right way to purchase software or the right way to use it. So we see a very high utilization of like browser plugins as an example with AI. And we have to take the real look at that. We have to say, okay, how's that impacting security? Where's the data being stored? What kind of data are they uploading? Because users may or may not understand, how large that language model is and where that data is going as they're typing it in. So we are in the active kind of position right now of building out our data protection policies to include AI and to put some policy and structure in place on what you can and cannot share within those tools that we really want to encourage them to use because we want to use them. We want to use them to cut down on analyst time, right? And so it's kind of the two sides of the coin is the security implications that we have to deal with to make sure that we're not leaking data or having people overshare. And then there's the piece of it which we want to leverage it to be able to move as fast as possible.
Yeah, that's good. And I think you mentioned the word, the appetite for sure for AI cuts across any industry, cuts across any generation. I got my 10-year-old nephew asking about how could he position a better question on his AI engine, right? So it's something that I think we both need to be very, very excited, but also it's something that we need to take in with a lot of caution, right? And this is where the break of innovation security becomes either your best friend or your enemy at some point, right? So wrapping it up, and I know that there's so many things that will obviously will excite us moving forward. What are the things that you and your team are working on right now that brings a lot of energy to you? I know you've mentioned you have a very small, lean team, but I'm sure it's packed with a lot of idea and innovation. What keeps them busy? What are they looking forward for the next couple of months? And what are the interesting things probably that you're incubating right now that probably a lot of our Innovis members would probably learn from?
Yeah, so for us, we're pretty good about this, and I think it drives a lot of excitement for our kind of 18 to 36 month roadmap. And what we typically do is around this time, we're digging deep into what is our risk exposure. And there's a lot of different ways that you can do this. Of course, every organization is a little different. We really lean on all of our teams. So we've kind of torn down, if you will, the silos that exist within IT, so that myself and our other analysts have a really active relationship across IT. So what we'll do is we'll bring everybody in and kind of say, hey, chew on the next couple weeks, figure out what you feel like is the biggest risk exposures to this organization. And, we kind of do the Venn diagram where we bring it back together, we overlap those. And then that gives us a really good idea of, you're going to have the 3 or 4 common things, right, that are going to overlap. And that really lets us know, where our risk exposure is, where we need to tighten tools up or maybe look at a technology to implement, and how we can build that into whether it's our spend plan or our roadmap for security. And that's been extremely effective for us. We've had a lot of third-party assessments come in, and their recommendations tend to map almost identical to what we do with our risk analysis. But the excitement piece of that, and I know risk exposure doesn't always sound excitement, is that gives us opportunities to really explore new technologies rather than, and this is a lot of organizations, rather than responding to an incident or responding or reacting to an issue, we're able to get ahead of those issues. So as we, like for me personally, as I look out over the next 12 to 18 months, we've massively grown and really matured our program in the last 5 years to a point where now instead of looking at big sweeping technologies, we've done a lot of the stuff. We have, multi-factor authentication deployed across our whole organization. All of our students are required to use 2-factor with their accounts. So we've really closed the gap on our risk exposure. So then it's how do we take it to another level? Right. How can we make, privileged access management an exciting thing and leverage that across many more people, not just within IT? How do we do unified communications, right? Like some of the things that we're doing as we bring in these SaaS services and really enable our customers and our clients and our students to be, really productive. We want to make sure that we're doing it in a way where we can cover all of the risk. And sometimes that's not technology, it's policy. Yep. Sometimes it's training, and sometimes it's just getting out with all the departments and talking to people and really evaluating their processes internally. So we look across the next 12 to 18 months. We're excited about really tightening up all the loose ends. And that gives us an opportunity to reevaluate our technology stack and our processes and procedures and say, how lean and how quick can we really get, right? Not just lean on personnel, but I don't want an analyst to be spending 8 hours a day just looking at logs. I want them to be able to start digging into forensics and start building more of a portfolio of services that they're good at, and really pour back into them and really develop our people. So that's really what I'm excited about and what our team is looking at. And the next 12 to 18 months is looking extremely productive, and it looks like it's going to be a fun time.
Yeah, and we don't have scarcity of technology and tools for sure, right? So I think it will be an interesting ride as you try to, as I said, balance security, but also invite innovation, technology, and all of this increasing tools that are helping us day to day. So I'm pretty sure it's going to be an exciting road. And the academia is a very young community, so I can just imagine the ideation and the experiment that they've been doing, right? So we wish you the best on that area, but I'm sure it will obviously be a very strong strength also and a strong bench for you, right? Johnny, thank you so much. We're blessed to have you here. We're blessed to have you as our first Innovis member joining us in What's in Your Cup, and we're looking forward to more conversations with you online and most especially offline when we see each other, probably one of the trend events. Thank you so much, Johnny.
Yeah, thank you, and I appreciate it. And now hopefully everyone understands what's in my cup.
Exactly. Thank you. Cheers.